Hello guys, this is Paul McWhorter with TopTechBoy.com, and we're here today with episode number 3 in our incredible new tutorial series where you're going to learn Fusion 360 or you're going to die trying. What I'm going to need you to do is pour yourself a nice tall glass of ice cold coffee. That would be straight up black coffee poured over ice, no sugar, no sweeteners, none needed. And as you're pouring your coffee, as always, I want to give a shout out to you guys who are helping me out over at Patreon. It is your support and your encouragement that keeps this great content coming. You guys that are not helping out yet, take a look down in the description. There is a link over to my Patreon account. Think about hopping on over there and hooking a brother up. But enough of this shameless self-promotion. Let's talk about what I am going to teach you today. Now, what you know is this overall class is about learning how to design things in Fusion 360 and then to print those things on a 3D printer. So there's really two parts to it, the designing part and the printing part. And the first few videos in this class is about getting your printer set up. As I talked about in earlier lessons, we are using the most excellent Creality Ender Model 3 version 2 printer, the Creality Ender Model 3 version 2 printer. If you don't have your printer yet, look down in the description. There is a link over to Amazon where you can pick up the identical printer that I am using in this class. What we're actually going to teach you today is, in last week's lesson, we got the printer put together and we got it all the way put together to the point that we could turn it on and it would boot up. Well, what we're going to do today is we are going to learn how to level the print bed, and then hopefully we're going to make our first test print. Sound pretty good? I think this should be a fun lesson, and actually it's a pretty easy lesson, so I hope you guys really enjoy it. Now, let me say a couple of words about leveling the print bed. It is probably the most important thing in getting a good 3D print is starting with a perfectly level print bed. And if you will develop the habit of every time before you do a new print, doing what I'm teaching you today, leveling that print, leveling the print bed, you're going to have a lot of success. But typically the number one reason that people fail in 3D printing is not every single time leveling the bed. You think, well, I leveled it last time, it's just been sitting here. Well, for whatever reason, someone bumps it, or thermal differences, any number of differences, it can very slightly be off. And this is what happens if you don't start with a perfectly level print bed. What will happen is that your print will not stick adequately to the bed, and about halfway through the print, it'll start peeling up. And then once your print starts peeling up, then all types of bad things happen. And a lot of times this is kind of the nightmare scenario, and this is why most 3D printers, I think, end up in the abandoned project corner of the old workshop. And this is kind of the scenario. You level the print bed and you print and it works, and then you level the print bed and you print and it works, and then you think, it's probably still level, I'm just going to print, and you print it without leveling and it works, and then you start leveling it every other time, and then you kind of print, don't level, and then you do a third print and it's maybe a big one, and in the middle of the night the print peels off, and then your extruder is just moving around trying to print into thin air, and then you get a huge glob of filament on your extruder, and then what happens is the extruder actually gets clogged because it can't push that filament through because of the glob that's there, and then you end up with this sort of baked on little element of filament inside the nozzle, and that is a clog. Well, you come in and you try to clear the clog, but maybe you don't quite completely get your extruder nozzle completely clean, and with a partial clog, then your printer will never quite print right again. And so let me just tell you, the key to success in 3D printing is do what I'm going to show you today every single print. Level the bed every single print. And if you do that, I think you will have great success. Okay, enough of this introductory chit chat. Let's jump in and let's see if we can get this thing going. We'll take a little bit of coffee, and let me show you guys from the assembly video. It seemed like that you really like the over-the-shoulder shot the best, where you are watching me work on the printer over the shoulder. The problem is last week my over-the-shoulder camera was a webcam, so it wasn't really like a high-definition studio camera. So what I've done is I've taken my overhead camera, because I don't think we really need that today, and I have put it as my over-the-shoulder shot, and so you should have a really high resolution image for the over-the-shoulder shot, and that is what we have here. Okay, so do you see the camera is back over my right shoulder, and so as you watch me working here, you can imagine that you are just standing behind me on my right and looking over my shoulder, and you are watching me work. Does that make sense? And then what I also have, so that we can watch the detail of the print a little bit more, I have my webcam sitting here, and it is just watching the print, and so I'm going to have it kind of be zoomed in on the area like right here where the printing would be going down, so you'll have kind of a close-up view of the print actually happening. And then our really hopefully not too confusing combo shot is you're looking over my shoulder, and then up here what you have is you have the webcam shot, so you can get a close-up of this area in the upper right corner of your screen. Does that sound pretty cool? I hope you like that. All right, and I think that will work pretty good. Okay, before we jump in and turn this thing on and try to start getting things going, I want to talk to you a little bit about why this first layer is so important. And I'm going to show you a technique for really getting things just dialed in perfectly. But here I'm going to try to show you, before I do that, what our goal is, or what we are trying to accomplish in this next step that we are doing. And I'm going to switch over to the most excellent Sketchpad view if I can. Let's see if we can get this thing up here. Yeah, I think there we go. All right, so we got the Sketchpad. And so what I want you to imagine is you are let's see, where are we? Oh, we don't want to be there. Let me turn that off, come back here. Okay, I think we're set there. Switch back to an old Raspberry Pi lesson. Let's just pretend that never happened. But what you're looking at is you're looking at the print bed from the side. And so we're looking at kind of a cross-sectional view of the print bed. And so this is the surface of the print bed here. And then what we have here is what would be like a close-up view. And that did not work as I expected. Let me see if I can just clear this out and try again here. Okay, so we're going to come here, and in fact, let's see if I can even do a print bed like this. Okay, look at that. So that's your print bed, and then what we're going to have is we are going to have the print head and the nozzle. So that is going back. Okay, we're going to have the nozzle close up like this. Okay, and then imagine here that we were going to print. Okay, and so what would happen, I got that a little bit too close, give me just a second, we'll get this. So imagine that you were trying to print like this, and here's the print bed, and then here's the nozzle, and then you're extruding that hot filament out of the nozzle. Well, this is a pretty large distance here, like maybe a millimeter that you see between the nozzle and the bed. And so when you extrude, you're going to get something that extrudes kind of like this, okay? And so you see that you're going to end up with sort of a round bead, and when you have that round bead, you don't have a very large adhesion area here, and that is not going to stick down. What's going to happen is you're going to print a few layers and it's going to roll off. Why? Because the nozzle is too far from the bed. Well, if you adjust it to where you get it really close like this, then what happens is you really haven't left enough room here that as you are pushing that filament through the nozzle, you haven't left enough room for it to go anywhere. And so it'll come out and you'll have like a really, really thin layer here, but you can't push the filament out fast enough. So if you go up and think of where your actual drive gear is, that drive gear, remember it's on that, mounted on that vertical column on that motor. I'm going to kind of draw the, like imagine this is the gear that drives the filament, and then you've got a little roller here, and then let's go over to, let's say we were using red filament, and your filament is here, and then you're trying to push the filament through, and then when it comes down here, it doesn't have any place to go. What happens is this gear keeps turning, and it's turning faster than it can push the filament, so it starts eating into the filament instead of driving it, and that makes all these little filament flakes, and those filament flakes begin to clog up your drive gear. They begin to make a mess up here and start creating a problem with the drive mechanism. And also, if you do that enough, you can actually start wearing down. You can start wearing down this drive gear, and so that is a what? That is a bad thing. And so this is what? This is too far, and this is too close. And so what you want is you want just right. And so let's try drawing this. And so we'll come over here, and what would just right look like? Just right would look something like this. It would be right about here. Okay, and you're saying, well, what does this mean? What's this mean? I'm showing you conceptually, and then I will show you exactly how to do it in a minute. Now you have room for the filament to come out, and when the filament comes out, it's going to be this nice flat layer, almost like, I think of it as like, it's like peanut butter just smoothed in. This one is like toothpaste. Okay, this one is like toothpaste. This one is like it never made it out the nozzle, and this one is like you just smeared it on there nice and smooth like peanut butter, and you see how you've got a nice wide adhesion layer, and things are just going to be beautiful. And so the trick of being successful in 3D printing is to get this type of profile. Now you have a 3D bed, and you cannot have, it can move in 3 axes, and so you cannot just have it at the right distance here. It has to be at the right distance everywhere, and that is called leveling the bed. And that, my friend, is what we are about to do. So let's see if we can get over here and get to our, I think that the best thing to do would be for us to just start at this overhead view, and then, this over the shoulder view, and then I'll kind of go through the way I like to level the bed. Let me go ahead and do a couple of bookkeeping things here. You need to go ahead and in your bag of goodies, why don't you find your little SD card? It's in a little white module like this, the SD card that came with it. And then if we get this little white adapter module out, you'll see the little SD card that came with your printer. And then if you look right here, so with it pointing towards you to the left, you'll see a little slot for the SD card. And let's see, it goes with it looks like it's going to go with the print side down, and the little connector side up is the way I believe this is going to go in. And yes, and this one you kind of press in. It's one of those that'll sort of snap in and out, and so I believe I've got that in. So we've got that little thing taken care of. And then secondly, what I'm going to need you to do is, hopefully you didn't really throw your instructions away, but there is a little piece of kind of slick paper, and it's blank on one side, and it has the QR code on the other, and it says Creality. This is just the right thickness. Okay, this is just the right thickness. If you think over here how we wanted to get to this profile, that profile is just about perfectly the thickness of this piece of paper. So we're going to use this little piece of paper or a similar piece of paper to set our distances, and I will show you how to do that in just a second. So now we have our SD card, and we have our little what I would say gap setting card. And then I think we are ready to move back to the over the shoulder shot. We don't need to quite turn the printer on yet, but what I'm going to do is, if you look right here, we need to get this piece of plastic off the print bed, and you see there is a clip. I need you to pull that clip off. Okay, pull that clip off, and there is also a clip on there on the back. And so we're going to reach over here and we're going to pull that off. And now notice that when you have this on here right, ender looks right to you. So we got to remember the ender is right side up pointing towards us. And now we're going to take this off and we're going to put it here. I'll try to keep this in a nice view where you can see it. And then we're just going to very carefully pull off this piece of protective plastic. And I try to not touch the print bed, other than I have to hold it right here. Okay, now what you can see is if you kind of feel it over here to the side, it's got a little bit of a rough texture. And so this is a very high-tech surface that has been designed to make things adhere well. As you're printing, your print will adhere well. And then after you're done printing, it should be easy to pop the thing off. And so this is supposed to be a really, really nice bed. You can print on this side, or if you want to do it old school, you can print on this side. Techniques for printing on glass. The nice thing is the glass is permanent to where this will eventually kind of begin to wear out. If you print on glass, the secret to getting it to print, a lot of people say the secret is, of course, always leveling the bed, cleaning it with isopropyl alcohol, and just getting it nice and squeaky clean. And if it's squeaky clean, it's more likely to stick. If you have it squeaky clean and it doesn't stick, some people like to spray a little hairspray, and the hairspray will help it stick, but then when you do the hairspray, it makes it a little bit harder to get off. And then if you do the hairspray, then on the next print, you've got to start by taking all the hairspray off. And if you will do these things and do them every time, you will have a lot of luck. But if you say, I'm going to do the hairspray technique, but I'm just going to use last time's hairspray, I'm not going to clean it off, I'm not going to reapply. When you start taking shortcuts, that's when you have problems. But today we are going to print on the high-tech side, because I think that is absolutely the best way to do it. As long as that lasts, I think that is the best way to do it. And then we're going to come in here and get this clip back on, hopefully. Okay, and try to get it lined up good. Where the plate matches the underlying plate. And then we're going to come back here, and remember, it's the little short side that goes on top. So we'll come over here and see if we can get that on. And I think we got it there. Now what I want you to see is this will move this way and then this will move this way. So this is like, this would be like Y, and this would be X, okay? And then this would be Z. And I don't know if they call this Y and this X, or this X and this Y, but up and down is Z. Okay, so we've got axis number 1, axis number 2, and then up and down is axis number 3. I actually think that we're ready to turn the printer on now. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to reach back here and I am going to turn it on. Okay. And let's see if we see any signs of life. Boom! Signs of life. It looks like the thing is booting up. We were expecting that, but that is actually always encouraging when it actually happens. Okay, so now what the key is, down to a fraction, like down to a tiny fraction of a millimeter, we have to get this bed completely flat. Now, how do we do that? The way we do that is, I will switch shots here. With a little luck, I will switch shots. Let me show you down underneath the bed, okay? And so I am lowering this camera, and if you look down underneath the bed, there are 4 of these little knobs. If you turn the knob to the right, like you're tightening it, it brings the bed down, okay? When you turn it to the right, it brings the bed down, and there are 4 of them, left, right, and then back left and back right. So there's 4 of those. So I can't just set it here. I've got to 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 move around, because if I set this one and then I set this one, it's going to affect this one. So we're going to have to kind of go back and forth several times to get the thing set. But now, before we start, what we need to do is we need to home this thing. We've got to send this thing to the home position. Now, this is what's really, really important. If this bed is too high, what makes it the home position? Well, it's when the Z-axis, let me see if I can get this. You're looking at my, I need you to watch the webcam here. Right over here, there is a Z-axis limit switch. So what are we looking for? This is going to come down until the switch switches, and then it's going to stop. That is the home position for the Z-axis. Well, what if that home position is too high above the bed? Then we need to raise the bed. What if that home position is too close to the bed? Then we need to lower the bed. The home position is the home position of the Z-axis, but we've got to move the bed up and down to match that. Now, here's the danger. If in shipping, if your bed is way too high and you send this to the home position, you're going to crash. You're going to crash your extruder nozzle into the print bed, possibly damaging the extruder nozzle, possibly damaging the bed. And so what's really important is you want to make sure that you are starting with this bed. You want to make sure that you're starting with this bed down really low. And so what you can see is, like when I look at mine, I have got it turned to the right almost all the way. And let me give you kind of a close-up here. You see, you can just see the spring there all nice and tight. So my bed is really down nice and low, and therefore I know when I home, I'm not going to crash my nozzle into my print bed. Does that make sense? And so let's see, I'm going to put this over here so you can kind of see a little bit of the action. I'm going to see if I can let you see the switch and maybe that print head. Okay, so you see you're watching for this little switch right here to be switched. As this thing comes down, it's going to hit the switch, and then this will stop. This part always scares me, even though I know I have my bed low enough. And this is obvious, but I didn't say it. I want to say it explicitly. You've got to tighten all 4 to make sure in all 4 locations that the bed is low enough that you won't get a crash. All right, so now what are we going to do? We are going to come over here, and I really hope I am not making you dizzy by moving this little camera too much. But let's see if we can come over here to our controls now. And what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to come over. You see how as I switch the knob, let's see if I can get this off. Are you guys like me and you hate to take the little cover, the little protective covers off? Sometimes it's almost like I just want to leave them on, but I think you can probably see it more clearly. So as I turn the little knob, as I turn this little knob, you see I get different selections, and I want to go to prepare. Okay, I want to go to prepare, and then what I want to do is I want to go to auto home. Okay, do you see the thing here that says auto home? And I hope you can see that, but it says auto home. And now as I auto home, I am now going to press the button down. Okay, and look at that. Look at that. We've got action, signs of life. So it came over to the left and it hit the limit switch and stopped, and now it's going to go down. And let's see if I can show you this coming down over here with that camera. Okay, do you see it's coming down? I'll try to give you a close-up of it up here. Okay, and you're watching this little switch here, so I need to point it down a little bit. Okay, you see that switch? And now it's going to come down, and when it touches that switch, it's going to stop. Hopefully, if the switch is working, if we have things hooked up right. And boom. Okay, so it hit it, and now let's see if I can even give you a shot. Okay, do you see how that nozzle, even though it's focusing not in the right spot exactly, that nozzle is a little bit above, the nozzle is a little bit above the plate, so we should be able to pull the plate under it. But if you try to kind of tug on the plate, it's what? It's not moving anymore because you've got power to those stepper motors, and because you have power to the stepper motors, they've kind of locked everything in place. And so we need to come back over to the dashboard here, to our little control panel. And what do you think we want to do? You guessed it, we want to do the disable the stepper. Okay, so I click disable stepper. And if that worked, then I should be able to move this. And yes, now I can move it. Okay, and then I can also move this way. So what I want to do is I want to just start, I think that, I don't know if you can really see much, but I think I'll just leave it on this shot. Okay, do you see how I have room there between the print head? In fact, if I can get it just like that, you're almost looking just right down it. Okay, so now we're going to get this piece of paper, and what you want is you want to put this piece of paper between the nozzle and the print head. And what you want to do is you want to get it where it's just kind of grabbing. You don't want to clamp the piece of paper down, because then you're in that scenario the print head is too close. You don't want to not feel it at all, because then you're too far away. But you want it to just kind of grab it a little bit where it just drags it. You just feel that it's touching and dragging but not clamping. Okay, so I'm too far away. So what do I need to do? I need to loosen this. Okay, and then I give it a little move, and then I loosen it, and I give it a little move. And this one, okay, this one's taking a little bit. Why? Because remember, we had really pulled that print bed down to make sure we wouldn't get a crash. And so I'm continuing to loosen. Okay, continue to loosen. Can you see it getting closer? When I look at the webcam, I can see that it's going up. Okay. Okay, there. Now, that is clamped. So I want to go back a little bit, tighten it. And now, what I feel is it's just perfect. I can feel that it's tugging on it, but it isn't clamped. Okay, I can feel tension, but it's not clamped. Good. Now we're going to come over here. Okay, and what I see here is now this one is already way too tight, and I could hear it drag, and so I need to pull this one down some. Okay, I need to pull that one down some. Okay, I need to pull that one down some more. Okay, I got a little bit of tension there. All right, so I think that one is pretty good. We're going to scoot it on back to the back. And that one is too loose, so the paper's too loose, so I need to raise the bed by loosening the screw, and I'm feeling a little tension there. Okay, that feels just about perfect. That feels just about perfect. Now this one is a little too loose, so I need to raise the bed. I feel the tension there. I come over here, need to lower the bed. There's too much tension. Lower the bed. And I come back here. Need to lower the bed just a little bit. It's a little too tight there, a little too snug. Okay. Feeling that really pretty good there. That's feeling pretty good. You guys, don't get in a hurry when you do this, okay? Don't get in a hurry. And don't overdo it as you do it. Okay. Okay, I think that that is aligned because at each of the four corners, I just feel a little bit of snugness, but the paper goes underneath it easily, but I can feel that it is dragging it. So I think at this point, I think we're ready to go. Okay, now, if your printer was aligned properly when you got it, and if you followed the assembly properly, then you should be able to do this. I will tell you, there is a chance that you get a printer and basically it's not, you can't level it. And so let's imagine that on this side, if everything's screwed all the way down and the bed is pulled all the way down because all of the screws are tight on this side, and then on this side, they're completely loose, and even with these all the way tight and these all the way loose, you can't get it leveled, then what that means is this assembly bar here, your x-axis gantry, is not assembled precisely enough. It did not come to you assembled precisely enough. And so if you have a problem that this is too high and this is too low and you've run out of play in the springs, or this is too high and this is too low and you've got them sort of at opposite extremes, then there are videos on YouTube. And I can't go in and take this apart and show you how to align it for every possible problem. But if you are not able to level the bed, just say align x-axis gantry and Google that, and there's some really good videos that show you how to correct that problem. Or maybe your problem is like this, or maybe your problem is like this. But if the play in these screws do not allow you to level the bed, then you're going to have to go in and you're going to have to correct the alignment in your assembly. And there's really good videos to show you how to do that. But I'm assuming at this point that you were able to get it level. Okay, does that make sense? And hopefully you understand, I don't want to make mine cockeyed in every possible way to show you how to fix it, but for every possible way, because this is a very popular printer, you can find resources on the internet, specifically on YouTube. Okay, so I think that we've gone all the way around, and I think that we're pretty much ready to go here. I need to look in my bag of goodies, if I can find my bag of goodies here somewhere. Here they are. And I think there's a little pair of pliers in here that are helpful at this point. And so in my little bag of goodies, and here is some pliers that allow you to cut your filament. And it's helpful as you are working with this to have these neat little dandy snippers. So we're going to get those ready, and we are going to move this stuff out of the way. And I think now what we are ready to do is we're ready to load the filament. So I'm going to come over here. Again, I really like this eSun filament, and as always, link down in the description over to Amazon where you can get the same filament that I'm using. You can get whichever color you like. I kind of like color. I like printing in orange, and so I will be using the most excellent orange eSun filament. I will need to open this up, and guys, another thing that I will tell you is the filament is best right when you open it, and if you are in a humid environment like I am, the humidity will degrade your filament. And so just kind of a pro tip here, if you open the filament and then you print one thing and then you wait 6 months or a year in a humid environment to print something else, you're probably going to have some humidity in your filament that's going to affect your printing performance. I know there's people that have put these in dehydrators to try to not heat, not hot, but something that would dehydrate to maybe try to keep them dry. But just know that once you open the filament, it is not going to last forever if you live in a high humidity environment like I do. I always, with this box cutter, am a little afraid of slicing an artery on a video. It hasn't happened yet, but it is a little bit of a fear that I have. Okay, so we have our filament out, and you can see this desiccant keeps it dry while it's in the bag. But you see, you got to understand this desiccant, once it hits the atmosphere, it absorbs it absorbs moisture out of the atmosphere, and then these become saturated. So it's not like you could put it back in and keep reusing this unless you have a way to dehydrate that. Okay, so now we look here and we need to kind of see how this is. We should be able to find the end of the filament somewhere here somehow. I see some tape here, which perhaps is taping it down. So I'm gonna cut the tape. And guys, whatever you do, don't let your filament just unroll, because once it really unrolls, it's very, very hard to get it rolled back. Okay, so I got it by cutting the tape. And now we will use these dandy little clippers, and you want to clip it at about a 45-degree angle. Okay, do you see that? You want to clip it at a 45-degree angle. You want to give it a little thing that makes it easy to feed. Don't clip it blunt, all right? So now we are going to come up and we are going to put the filament on up there, and then keep that over. And now back on the back side, you see the white tube coming out here. On the opposite side, you should have a little hole. And now right here, I'll try to get my hand out of the way. If you look, there is a lever, and you squeeze that lever, and when you squeeze the lever, it releases the tension, and that's going to allow me to feed this filament. Like if you look right here, this is where the filament will come out. Opposite that on the other side is a little hole. And what you do is you get it started in the little hole. You can't go any further. Now you've got to squeeze that little lever to open it up. And then once you have it open, then you get it to where it feeds on, like to right here. Okay, so now I can see the orange filament is inside of that white tube. And now I can just turn counterclockwise and I can feed it. Now, as I'm feeding it, I'm going to come back over here. And let's see if I can show you this. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to say, go ahead and preheat the PLA. Okay. And now I don't know if it's going to show you very clearly here. It has a little trouble focusing, but you can see the nozzle temperature is on the left. It is coming on up, and the bed temperature is on the right, and it is coming on up. And so then at this point, what I got to kind of warn you is, I've got to kind of warn you that this bed is going to be getting hot, and this extruder nozzle is going to get hot, so you don't want to burn yourself as you're doing this. Okay, so we're going to watch out for the plate, and we're going to watch out for the extruder nozzle. I didn't actually burn myself, but I did come close to it. You can see on the nozzle, we're at 110 on our way to 200. And on the build plate, we're at 43 on our way to 60. So as we're doing that, I'm going to go ahead and again, counterclockwise, I am feeding the filament. I'm feeding the filament as I move counterclockwise, and I can see it. And I don't want to get it down into the extruder. I don't want to put it into the extruder until I'm up to temperature. But we're getting there pretty darn quickly. We are at 162 of 200, and then we're at 50 of 60. Okay. And I see it coming up. I'm going to stop right about an inch before the extruder. And now I'm going to wait for that temperature to come on up to full temp. Let's see here, we are at 198 out of 200, and we are at 55 out of 60, so we are getting pretty darn close. This extruder, this hot end is now hot enough that I should be able to bring filament down from it. And so, yeah, we're at 200 now. And so I'm going to kind of look up and sort of show you the view. And you can see under here, being careful not to burn my finger. Okay. There you can see the underside of the extruder in the webcam shot. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here counterclockwise, and I'm driving the filament down into that hot end. And if you look over my head, what you're going to hope that you see here very soon is you hope that you're going to see that we're actually getting the filament coming out of the extruder by me manually doing it. And boom, you see that? Yeah, I think you can you see it here? Yeah, we're getting it coming out. Okay, so we have fed the filament all the way into the hot end. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I do indeed think that we are ready to print. So I'm going to see if I can give you a view of the print there. Okay, so now I guess I should show you over here the head here again, the control panel. And so what we're going to do is we are going to go back, and now we're going to say print. And when you see print, what you see is on that SD card we put in, there are two models, the model of a dog and the model of a cat. We will be printing the model of the dog. Okay, if any of you print the cat, you will be banned from the channel. Okay, you will be banned from the channel by printing silly cats. But we're going to come here and we're going to go to dog. Okay, now understand this dog has already been designed. And then from the design file, an STL file was created. And then from the STL file that was sliced and G code was created. And this dog2H is basically the G code that gives every single command of X, Y, and Z of where to move this thing. So now we're just going to hit the dog. Okay. And then it says, okay, we'll talk about tune and pause and that sort of stuff later. I like to get that filament off of there that was hanging, but we are not going to be doing a tune or a pause or a stop right now. We are just going to let this thing print. And what we hope to see now as it comes down, let me see if I can show you the action over here. You see the head is coming down. Okay, and what we really hope to see is a nice, smooth, peanut butter like finish. So it comes down, it has hit the stop, it has hit the stop, it has gone up a little bit, and now it's going over, and hopefully it's going to come to the middle. Okay, got to move this out of the way. And sometimes off to the side it'll make a little smear. And what that does is that just allows things to get started. And so I think that smear over there was for a very specific purpose, and that was to allow it to kind of get the extrusion going before you go to your main print. And now I would say that that is a pretty darn good looking circle that we have made. And I really like the profile that it is smooth and it is flattened out. It isn't rounded. And so that is looking very good to me. I think that it's possible that that outside, I don't know if that was a skirt or if that's part of the actual print. This actually, just right with you guys, this is my first print on this thing. But to me, it is looking pretty darn good. See if I can get you a little better live view there. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Boom, guys, we are 3D printing. And I'll tell you, I'm trying to see what it is filling in there. I'll tell you a little bit more about the process that we're going to be using and what we're going to be doing. And then this looks like it will take, usually it tells you, okay, usually it tells you how much longer you have to print, but this one tells me how long I've been printing. It doesn't tell me the remaining yet. But what it's doing is, it looks like it's filling in that first layer. It's filling in that first layer on the inside circle, and so that's pretty exciting. I feel like this print is going to work because I really like the looks of this first level. And I'm going to see if hopefully in a minute this will show you a little bit better. Okay, you see that first level is going down really well. Seems like no matter how many high resolution cameras that I have, I don't have enough that I'm having to show you the actual printing layer there on the webcam. Okay, so I think we're going to get our first successful print here with this thing. Again, if you were not able to level your bed, go to YouTube and search on the Creality Ender 3 V2 and leveling the bed, or leveling the x-axis gantry. Usually if there's a problem, it's this x-axis gantry is on like this or like this, and you got to kind of take it apart and adjust it a little bit. You need to get it within a millimeter or two of level, and then the final leveling is just done with these screws. And I hope that all you guys had luck in just leveling it with the screws. But if you don't, you know, millions of people, or you know, thousands of people have that same problem, and you will be able to see how to do it by looking on YouTube video resources. But this is looking pretty good. Okay, so now what we're going to start getting ready to do, and I think next week what we are going to do is we will be doing our first design in Fusion 360. So I think what my goal is for next week is to take you through the workflow. And so we're going to design a very simple structure in Fusion 360 next week, and then I'm going to show you how to slice it. Well, first of all, from Fusion 360, we're going to export an STL file. Then we will load that STL file into our slicer, and then our slicer will create our G code, and then our G code will come over here to our printer, and then we will print. Okay, so that's kind of what we're going to do. Next week, I'm not going to be teaching you good design principles, and I'm not going to be teaching you all the wonderful things about Fusion 360, but I just want to do the simplest thing possible, and then I want to go through and show you how to do the workflow. Man, I am getting excited. It looks like that first level is already down. First level is already down, and I think that we are going to have success here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the video, and then I'll just jump back in after it's gone a little while, and so I'll kind of come and go for the next little bit, and then we will wrap the video up. Okay, but guys, I am super excited about this, and when this gets a little bit further along, we will check back in with you. Okay, I'm back with you now, and what we can see is, if you're looking from the shot over my head, it looks like that we got maybe a couple more minutes before this thing is going to be done, but it looks like a most excellent print. Thing I'm really happy with is we've got very good adhesion of the print to the base. And just what I can see right now, it looks like a really smooth, very clean print. And so I think this thing is going to be a success. And so we will give it a couple more minutes, and then we are going to knock it off the plate. Okay, guys, I'm back with you, and this is looking really, really good. On my console, it says that we're 99% through, and so we are probably getting really, really close to this thing being done. And I'm just very, very pleased with what I am seeing. We've got very good adhesion, and boom, we have a 3D printed dog, and so that looks really, really good. Now I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the final thing that I'm going to have to do. What do you think?
Wow, that looks like more like a pig.
You think it looks more like a pig? Well, it's a little dog. Okay, yes.
Can I go show Nana?
Okay, well, I'm going to finish my video now because I'm actually making a video, and then you can take it down there, okay?
Okay.
Okay, love you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how to take this off. It looks like we got really good adhesion. It looks like that we got very smooth layers, and so for a first print, I'm going to call this thing a success. Now, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about removing your print from the print bed. And one thing you got to be really careful is this little spatula will help you, but what you don't want to do is you don't want to scratch your build plate, because that build plate is very high tech, and if you go in there and every time you knock the print off you kind of scratch it a little bit, you're going to degrade the adhesion properties of your build plate. And so what you don't want to do is you don't want to come in from the side and kind of come like this, because if you're not perfectly flat, the low side is going to scratch the bed. And so what I like to do is I like to just come in and get right under the lip, and then what I'm going to try to do is just pop it up by twisting and not scraping like this, because that would be damaging the build plate or could be scratching the build plate. So I'm going to come in low under it and then just twist it. And you see, by doing that, I haven't scratched the build plate. And now let's take a look at this. Shazam! Look at that. I am really, really, really happy with that. And so some of the things that I look at the underside, and what I don't see is I don't see any signs of peeling. It looked like it got really good adhesion. Very, very smooth walls, very, very smooth print. And so this is exactly what I was looking for, and I could not be happier. So I would say that I am going to say that we have been successful here. On lesson number 3, we have gotten all the way to doing our first print. Now, this is what your homework assignment is for next week. Now, part of this, what you did is you already had the finished G-code file of the little dog that we printed, but now how do you get to that G-code? And to do that, of course, we're going to start by designing in Fusion 360. After you design it, you create an STL file. After you create the STL file, you have to slice it with a slicer to generate the G-code that you print then. Now, I saw that Fusion 360 has a built-in slicer, and by using the Fusion 360 built-in slicer, what you could do is you could go directly from Fusion 360, you could connect the printer up to your computer, and you could print this from Fusion 360. But the problem is slicing is really, really very, very high tech, and it's very, very sensitive, and there's a lot of expertise in how to slice properly. And so what I really want to do in this series of lessons, I want to use a very, very popular slicing program called Cura. Okay, I want to use a very, very popular slicing program called Cura. And so what your guys' homework assignment is for next week is to download and install Cura. And Cura is C-U-R-A, okay? And so if we take a quick glance over here, I believe, all right, you can see that you just search on install Cura, and you'll see this Ultimaker Cura, powerful, easy to use 3D printing, and you can install that software, and then we will be doing our slicing using Cura. So 2 homework assignments for you. You need to show me that you have successfully printed your little demo print, and then you need to show me that you have installed Cura. Okay, those are the 2 homework assignments for next week. Now, what are we going to do next week? What are we going to do next week? Next week in lesson number 4, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do my first design in Fusion 360, going to be a really, really simple design. Then I'm going to export it as an STL file. I'm going to import that STL file into Cura. Then we're going to slice it in Cura, and then we're going to bring it over to the 3D printer and print it. And so in effect, we're going to go through the whole workflow from idea through design, through slicing, through G-code, through printing, and so you'll get your first glimpse at that complete workflow. And so that's what we're going to be doing next week. Then in the future lessons, what we're going to do is we're going to start actually learning good design principles. We're going to learn good engineering design principles in Fusion 360, and we're going to be designing things then that will come over and print. And so you guys that are just interested in Fusion 360, I'm sorry that you've had to kind of go through 3 lessons of us getting the printer set up, but now we are in fact ready to jump in and start learning Fusion 360. Man, guys, I hope you are having as much fun taking this class as I am making it. If you've enjoyed this lesson, make sure to give us a thumbs up. When you give us a thumbs up and leave a comment down below in the comment section, that helps us with the old YouTube juice, and YouTube will show this video to more people. And that's important because the world needs more people doing engineering and fewer people sitting around watching silly cat videos. Paul McWhorter from TopTechBoy.com. I will talk to you guys later.